oh my, look at me. I'm Princess Celestia, the largest horse in all of Equestria, and I'm not just talking about all that cake I've been eating, ha 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 ha. No pony else is as beloved and important as me, and that is definitely not because they fear that I'll banish them to the moon like I did with my sister. Of course not, ha 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 ha. Fortunately, I don't have much time for all those lowly simpletons who look up to me, because I am always so busy doing important Celestia stuff and running my unicorn torture facility disguised as a school. You peasants wouldn't understand. Ha 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 ha. Alright, that's enough. I can already feel the audience retention rate dropping. But seriously, after having saved the land from loads of different kinds of threats over the years, you'd expect Celestia to be more on top of any villains that have the potential to conquer all of Equestria. I know this is nothing new, and the fandom has been saying this for like 15 years now, but like, come on! Your star student warns you about the potential return of Nightmare Moon, which you, contrary to popular belief, know is a very real story, and since I assume you would have at least kept track of when you banished your own sister, you know that this could pose a serious risk to the safety of Equestria. So what do you think the only reasonable thing to do is? Is it A, cancel the Summer Sun celebration and warn the citizens of Ponyville? B, deal with Nightmare Moon yourself and use the elements of harmony to reform her? C, extend Nightmare Moon's banishment to a time where it's less risky to confront her? Or D, tell your student she's stupid, then do nothing about it and get kidnapped? I know this is a difficult one, but now you have 5 seconds to lock in your answer. Time's up, and the only correct answer was D, do absolutely nothing, which is the only logical option, obviously. Make sure to let me know in the comments if you got it right or something. Now, some of you Celestia defenders might say something like, actually, Nightmare Moon is a bad example. She didn't act because she wanted to make sure her sister was gonna be okay. And while I do get where you're coming from with that point, what about when Chrysalis defeated her during the Changeling attack on Canterlot? If it wasn't for the main 6 intervening, Equestria would have been conquered by the Changelings, like we actually see happen in the alternate timeline in the end of Season 5. So that argument doesn't really make sense for all the other events we see happen in the show. My point is, even though Celestia is a very powerful being that has saved Equestria on multiple occasions in the past, she either seems to lack basic rationality, which I honestly doubt because she's been able to peacefully rule Equestria for so long, or she just hasn't quite learned how to count up to 1,000 yet. So then, if she's not saving Equestria from danger, what does Celestia even do?
Wow, we said the name of the video! No way, guys, that's the title of the video! That's so awesome! Wow!
During the Season 7 episode, A Royal Problem, we get more of an idea of the actual daily activities of Celestia and Luna. Celestia's day in particular seems to be filled with a bunch of diplomatic appointments. Stuff like town hall meetings, school openings, and other public appearances. But I'm having a hard time believing that every day is the exact same as this. Like, I don't doubt that her average weekly calendar has plenty of boring and pointless meetings that could have just been a letter. But whenever we see any of the main 6 at the castle, both of the royal sisters are just sitting around in the throne room, seemingly doing nothing. So what more is there to discover? And to my surprise when I was doing my minimal research for this video, the answer to this question is actually quite simple. As a matter of fact, we've mentioned most of it in this video already. With the exception of the royal seat warmers here behind me, I think we can categorize most of Celestia's daily activities under one of the following 3 topics. First, diplomatic appointments. This is like we see in the Royal Problem, basically all the meetings about ruling the land she has to attend and stuff. Secondly, school activities. After all, we can't forget that she's the head mayor of Celestia School for Gifted Unicorns. In the early seasons of the show, we only really see her focused on Twilight as her personal student, but I can only assume that she has a bunch more responsibilities, or even other students to take care of at the same time. And lastly, adventures. Now, this one might come as a surprise to some people, especially those who haven't read the comics, but in all of those stories, we do occasionally see Celestia going out on adventures of her own. Think of stuff like her visiting the Mirror Dimension in the Reflections arc, helping the main 6 defeat Sombra during the Siege of the Crystal Empire, or when Cosmos first appears. Now, taking a look at this pie chart that was very conveniently being filled in as I was talking, it currently seems like all of these activities are taking up an equal part of her day. But, as we've already learned, this is probably not the case. In reality, I think it's closer to 70% diplomatic appointments, then 20 to 25% of CSGU activities, and the other 5-ish% is taken up by adventures and dealing with threats against Equestria. However, that doesn't explain the biggest point of this video. Why does Celestia always choose to send Twilight into battle whenever some potentially Equestria ending event is about to take place, instead of just dealing with it herself? The actual explanation, as unsatisfying as it is really, really simple. Twilight is the main character, and it would be really weird if Celestia just brute forces her way through all the villains when Twilight is supposed to teach every pony the magic of friendship. So then, what could we do about this? Could we change anything about Celestia's part in the story to make her live up to her name more? Also, quick shout out to, oh god, I'm gonna butcher this, Trifosu1386 for exactly predicting this video topic after I'd already started working on it. I think in order to improve the way Celestia was written, we need a couple of things. For starters, she needs to make more appearances throughout the episodes. Specifically more in a way where she's not just a motivation for Twilight or any other of the main six to do something. The only real episode we have like this is in Season 9, Between Dark and Dawn, which is more focused on silly sister shenanigans than actual character building. And the contrast we see there between how Celestia prefers the more adventurous life, whereas Luna just wants to relax, was very fun to see. Throughout the show, we have a couple of episodes that just don't focus on the main six at all. Episodes like Just for Sidekicks in Season 3, Slice of Life in Season 5, and Dungeons and Discords in Season 6, stuff like that. What if we had a similar episode that was all about Celestia? Ooh, what if we do it exactly like we see in Just for Sidekicks, where the first episode is Spike's POV, and the episode after that is all about the main six? However, in this case, we start with the season opening where Celestia sends Twilight off to deal with some sort of villain, maybe Discord or Tyrok or something. And then the rest of the episode is focused on what she is doing as the situation unfolds. Perhaps while the main six are looking for a solution to defeat the villain, she's instead making sure that no pony gets harmed in any sort of attack. That would be really cool to see. Additionally, it would directly address the biggest criticism this fandom has against her for being useless. And now, imagine if, in addition to all of this, we would have an episode or whole character arc of Celestia just going on adventure sometimes. That way it would give her so much more depth as a character, giving the fandom something more to latch onto other than just the ruler and mentor figure we have now. So then, what kind of adventure are we thinking about? I figured the best way to get as many potentially good ideas was to just ask all of you. So, a couple of weeks ago, I threw out a poll and asked you guys what kind of story arcs or adventures you would have liked to see Celestia to go on. So let's go through some of the responses and see if there's any awesome ones in there. There were a couple of more broad ideas, like, personally I'd want an adventure with Discord. It would be cool to see if she ever schemed or masterminded anything. And Princess Celestia should have had to solve a friendship problem without any help from the main six or a sister. All of which are really good ideas, but then I would have loved to hear what exactly you have in mind. What kind of friendship quest would Celestia have to solve? What scheme or master plan would she be behind? Or what shenanigans would her and Discord get up to? And before any of you shippers ask, no, that last one did not have any further implications, shush. Anyways, the next idea comes from EpicGal234 and says, I would have loved it if Celestia gave Twilight a trial run before giving the throne to her. They go on some mini-adventures where Twilight fails spectacularly. Celestia then tells Twilight that she's doing badly because she's trying to do things like Celestia instead of like Twilight. And in the end, they go back and deal with problems the Twilight way, showing that Twilight is capable of ruling Equestria. I do really like that idea. We actually already sort of see a beginning to this in the episode Between Dark and Dawn, where while Luna and Celestia go on vacation, Twilight and the rest of the main six are left to organize a party for all the swans in the castle? Alright, this episode is a lot weirder than I remember. But anyways, Twilight doesn't want any pony but her friends to help her because that would be like admitting she can't do it herself, but then as the episode goes on, surprise surprise, it turns out it's all way too much work to do on your own and that they might need help after all. Now, I'm not a princess, obviously, nor am I in a management position of any kind, but like, isn't delegating work you can't take on yourself like leadership 101? Since Twilight is taking over the throne in less than 15 episodes from this point on, it's quite shocking to see that she doesn't know stuff like this already. Anyways, I need to stop getting distracted and actually get through this list. This is a really, really good suggestion and would have been awesome to see in the show, especially if it would have happened before the final season. In the beginning of the end, we obviously learn about Celestia's plan to step down, so already having some episodes in the previous seasons about Twilight subbing in for her would suddenly make a lot of sense. And then lastly, which was by far the most popular suggestion, have an episode dedicated to show what happened 1,000 years ago right after she banished Luna to the moon. And honestly, I could totally see that happening. If an episode like that is well written, it would be way up there with stuff like The Lost Problem and The Perfect Pair as far as emotional involvement from the audience goes. I can honestly imagine the entire episode being like a flashback, happening way before any of G4 actually takes place. Just picture this. Celestia is the lone ruler of Equestria, taking care of a threat in the Everfree Forest, perhaps getting rid of some timber wolves. During the encounter, one of them happens to run into the castle of the two sisters, and as Celestia gives chase, she is hit with a massive wave of nostalgia from her past. She goes from chasing the Timberwolf to just roaming the halls, as we, the audience, see various flashbacks of when Luna and Celestia both lived there. Starting from somewhere like the main hall, where the two of them lived together in harmony, but then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Starting from somewhere like the main hall, where the two of them live together peacefully, we see a very normal snippet of their day, something like them talking together about the newest law changes, or even just having dinner. As Celestia moves on, she walks through the hallway, a shot lingering just a little bit too long on a fresh batch of lavender hanging from the walls, as we go back to younger Celestia overhearing Luna talking to herself from the library or some other room in the castle, talking about how something just isn't fair. But then, as we all know, the younger Celestia in the flashback decides to just leave her be and moves on. The episode would then go on like that, with a narration from current-day Celestia about how things went back then, as the flashbacks get more and more dramatic, slowly building up to the eventual conclusion where Luna turns into Nightmare Moon and things escalate. And we then cut back to Celestia sitting in the castle, talking to herself or directly to the moon, as we learn how much of an impact it actually had on her. Now, I'm sure there are a bunch more ideas that could be added to make that episode idea even better. After all, I only just thought about it. But I do agree with all of you that an episode where we learn how Celestia actually felt after Luna's banishment was basically the one episode she absolutely needed to be a more complete character in the show. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed, and just to address this before I get comments about it, just because I made this video doesn't mean that Celestia is my favorite princess. The only reason I made this video was because some of my friends are massive Luna simps, and I thought this would be a fun way to annoy them. If you're watching this, and you know who you are, LMAO get fucked.